I'm going to go ahead and share this. I wanted her to be in the room, but we are here to celebrate the community of architecture and the AIA family, and I wanted to share good news with Beverly, about Beverly, so that you guys could congratulate her and share this moment with her. But she's just recently received a gubernatorial appointment to the Florida Arts Council. So, yes. Mr. Campbell, you will remember Beverly as the woman in red on the stage last year. That's her. So again, we've got AIA leadership that is in the community representing the body of architecture. The other item that I wanted to share with you, and it was a secret for a long time, and it's one of those secrets that just bubbles up and it's right here, and you're dancing because you want to share because you're so excited and so proud for her. But last year at the Leadership Summit, when Beverly was present, the Office of the Architect of the Capitol became available. And our immediate past president, Beverly Frank, applied for the job. And she made it to the top 10 list and was actually interviewed at the Senate chambers for the Architect of the Capitol. Yes. Isn't that crazy? As you know, she didn't make it, but just the fact that she could compete on that level just is incredible. And also, as you guys know, dealing with RFPs that say one thing, but they want something different, we obviously got an engineer for that role. So there you go. All right, so let's move on to the next speaker. And what a great start with Mr. Goldberger. I think he's left the room. But what a wonderful kickoff in that. Okay, before our next speaker, something else new that you may want to be aware of is that you can now complete the evaluations online. A paper version is also available in your attendee packet, but to do it online, you can scan. It's not here. There's a QR code on the form. So if you'd like to do the evaluations of the different speakers, online, you're available to do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, our immediate past president, Ms. Beverly Frank, has just entered the room. So I'd like to give her a round of applause for her gubernatorial appointment. Okay, Beverly, you can stand back up. And the fact that our Beverly Frank, your immediate past president, made it to the short list for the Architect of the Capitol position. So our next speaker, Mr. Ralph Campbell, is a certified master coach and president of Learning Optimize. I met this gentleman at the Women in Architecture event last year in Miami and thought we have to bring him to our state convention. Mr. Campbell's genuine dedication to helping others is rooted in his lifelong commitment to giving back to his community. He has supported and served on the boards of numerous charities, including Camelot Community Care, United Way of Broward County, Nova Southeastern University, Broward Partnership for the Homeless, Boys and Girls Club of Broward County, Women in Distress, and the National Conference for Community and Justice. Mr. Campbell has been recognized as one of the most powerful African Americans in South Florida and was honored by the Sun Sentinel as a community hero and by the Broward County Public School System. A graduate of Dartmouth Tech School of Business Leadership Program, Leadership Broward 22, and Leadership Florida 27, Ralph earned a bachelor's degree in marketing from Morehouse College and began his journey toward a master's degree and PhD in the fall of 2022. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Ralph Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning. I will share my story about Rhonda a little later about how I got here, but I was asking my new friend here, I said, do I have a hard stop at 11:15? They're taking up my time. And she goes, yeah, you have a little wiggle room. So I'll be brief. My name is Ralph Campbell, and I'm a leadership coach. I actually live in Coral Springs, and so I'm happy to come to the Breakers when it's always a good time to come to the Breakers. A little bit about myself and who I am. I grew up in Key West, Florida. Yes, so I'm a conch. People actually grow up there. Yes, people do grow up in Key West. So I'm a conch, and I'm going to share more of the story about how I moved from Key West, Florida to the Breakers. So in front of you there is a word. Naomi and a few of you who I know today, let's not be smart rats, so please be quiet. The rest of you, raise your hand if you know what this word means, please. It's a Zulu term. Sir, stand, please. Good day, yes. Yes, good day. I came across this years ago watching a TEDx talk, and the woman, her name was Susan David, she shared the word Sayubona. It's used in South Africa, and it means, in America, we say good day, hello, and half the time we're on automatic. But in parts of South Africa, it means good day, I see you, I see your value, I see your worth, I see your dignity. In times like these, Sayubona really is a word that not only should be used more, but really expressed in a way of being. And so greetings from my world to your world, Sayubona. I see all of you, I see your dignity, I see your humanity. And so earlier I talked about, what I do. That's the what I do. I'm a coach. I do a lot of work with nonprofits. I do a lot of executive coaching, but I'm not here about the what I do. So I do have content to share. I believe I have some ideas to share with you, but I'm here out of my why. My why is to make gentle the life of this world through honoring each person's value and worth, so that together, the difference we make for each other can never be erased. I've been working on my why for years. I stole the first term from Robert Kennedy in his memoir he wrote years ago, and Martin Luther King died in 1968. As many of you know, there was rioting across the country that night, and he was in Indianapolis giving a speech, and he got on top of a flatbed truck, and he stole the term from the Greeks, and expressed that evening to make gentle the life of this world. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I began to change my why as I began to think about what my next chapter would look like professionally and personally, and I adopted that as a way of living my life, to make gentle the life of this world. So as I said before, I'm from Key West. I am a conch. My mom had 4 of us. I have 3 older sisters and myself. She had us all within a 5 or 6 year period. She divorced very early. Some of you who've been to Key West, it's pretty expensive. A lot of nice architecture there, but it's very pricey. At one time, not sure if it is today, it was the most expensive city to live in Key West. Cost of living is very, very expensive down there. But we lived in Key West. My father was a marine biologist. My mother was a social worker. I never made more than $27,000 a year, but somehow scraped it out and was dedicated to her 4 kids. She'd always tell us her one main value in life, she had many of them, was education. And she would always say, Ralph, your education will be your liberation. My mother couldn't afford daycare. So you see the library there, it's still there. So after school, that's where we were told to go. Went to the library and read books, read. Well, you had Jimmy Buffett down there that time, so Ralph wasn't reading books. I wanted to, do what young, mischievous kids do. My sisters read at very early ages. I like to think that I caught up later in life about that. But that was really the foundation of me as I look back, connecting the dots of adopting this growth mindset, because my mother had a growth mindset. And so fast forward, you probably can't read this, many of you can. My mom produced, because of her mindset, 3 sisters. They're all in academia now. They all have their PhD. One has her JD. 2 are teachers. One's the chief of staff to the chancellor of Syracuse University. And then there's Ralph, a Morehouse man. I'd like to think that's more valuable than PhD. But that's what happens when one lives out of a growth mindset. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And of course, show you my house in Key West, where 5 of us live, very small. It's now worth a few $1 million. My mother sold in 1992, so she didn't make a lot of money out of the house. But I like to show that. I have twin boys, Brandon and Cameron, and those are my 3 beautiful sisters. I won't spend more time on this. You're going to get the slide deck. I uploaded it, but you'll get the slide deck, and I have some other treats for you, but just some of the organizations that I've been fortunate enough to work with over the past decade or so. I have a purpose statement. It's one of my most powerful statements. I borrowed it, of course, from a professor at Harvard. He was speaking to the staff at Harvard years ago, had a lot of great topics to talk about, and he got his feedback, and the feedback form said, "This was the most important slide." And he goes, "That's not what I was here to talk about." And he said, he's here to leave, and I'm here to leave you with something to think about rather than agree with. I don't know about you, but me, I was trained to listen from right, wrong, agree, disagree. Everything that came out of someone's mouth, I was trained to listen from, I agree, I nod, I disagree. You know, we're good now. We just sit there, disagree, and we smile, but we're really communicating. And he said, what about try it on? What about try the conversation on? What about not believing it, but try it on and see if it's useful to you? So my purpose statement for you tonight or today is, I want to leave you with something to think about. Why don't you let it percolate? Why don't you let it just be with you, take it out in the world, try it on for a week or two, then send me an email. You're a jerk, it didn't work. You're talking about mindset. Nothing happened for me. No, try it on, try it on. So before we dive in and we go fast forward, these are some simple ways to create value. You're all smart in this room. I'm not going to read them to you, but I'm going to point out 2 that I think are very, very important. At some point, some of you may get an opportunity to share, and I'd ask you to speak in first person. I notice a lot of people speak, and they speak in generalizations and stereotypes. You, them, they, you, come on, you know. Speak for yourself, you know. My experience is, I believe. The second most, for me, is number 5. Be here as a noticer versus a looker or a watcher. I know you're probably sitting there going, what did you just say? I said be here as a noticer versus a looker or a watcher. So for me, I spent several decades when I would go to conferences as a looker or watcher. And my boss would go, how was A1A? And I'd come back before the cloud and digital age with the, remember, big old binders? Oh, I drank a lot of wine and all these great speakers, or I didn't like this one. Oh, the food was, I didn't get the discount at the restaurant. The chicken was too hard. The bed's too hard to pillow. And that speaker, I didn't like her or him. And that's what I mean by being a looker or a watcher. He goes, oh, that's called do-me learning. I go, what do you mean? He goes, do-me learning means that the person responsible for your experience in life or learning anything is predicated on the breakers, the speaker, Rhonda, the board. And so about 15 years ago, I had a big breakthrough going, wait a second here. If I'm going to create value, I need to start being a noticer. So a noticer to me is someone that creates their own value. And so if you are having a great week, which you should be having, it's because you created that for yourself. Now, yes, it's beautiful outside. Yes, there's food. Yes, there's a lot of great things and amenities at the breakers, but ultimately, you being a noticer, you're the one ultimately responsible for your experience, as well as the great team that's made this happen. Quick icebreaker to get you going, because we've got to do that. So I'm going to show you a quick slide. I just want you to read it, and then ask that you just don't say anything. Don't nudge your neighbor. Don't whisper in their ear, oh, I know it. Just be present. Just be present, okay? So read it. This isn't a trick, but do not say a word, okay? Just read it. I'd like you to stand, if you think it read, A Bird in the Hand, Paris in the Spring. Don't say a word, please. Thank you. Thank you. Look to your left. Look to your right. Thank you. Have a seat. It did not say that. That's okay. That's okay. I have space for that. I'm going to show you again, because we got to keep rolling here. So I'm going to show you it again. Nothing's tricky here. Just pay attention. Please stand if you think it read, A Bird in the Hand, Paris in the Spring. Thank you. Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you. Sit down, please. It did not say that, but I can't keep doing this, so we've got to get on to my main point. I do a lot of work with neuroscience. We're not going to do that today, but I will say this. The brain is very predictive, and so the brain learns through pattern recognition. So whatever it's learned unconsciously or consciously, it brings forth in the future. You don't see reality. You only see the reality that's wired. That's just how it works. So did you stand? Could you stand, please? And can you walk a little closer? And your name? Brett. Brett? Hi, Brett. I'd like you just to read it out loud.
Bird in the hand, Paris in the spring.
One more time.
A bird in the hand, Paris in the spring.
Now, I want you to read one word at a time. A. Keep going. Give him a hand, give him a hand. There you go, there you go. Brett, don't worry. 27 years ago, I was in a room of 250 people, and they did this for about an hour and a half, and I was the last person standing. So thank you for being a great participant. Yes. And we will continue. So I'm going to have two powerful conversations with you today. One is this model called Be, Do, Have, and the next is a model called Success Mindsets. And so they really work together. I'm of the belief, and I learned this model about 30 years ago, that we live in three different quadrants. So we're always doing, we're always being, we're always having. Let's start with have, pretty simple, right? We're always producing results, outcomes, right? And then we're always doing, right? Actions that we do, verbal and nonverbal. And then the powerful one is where I'll spend most of my time is that we're really always being. These are the unconscious thoughts, the conscious thoughts that you and I have, our attitudes, our emotions, our beliefs, our interpretations, and even our memories. So you and I are always in these three quadrants. So I won't be redundant, but those, the doing piece or the actions that we take, the ways of being, which we're going to spend most of our time today on. There's three domains here. And as I go through these domains, I want you to notice for yourself which one do you live out of mostly. Because we all have one that's a dominant one. And they're neither good or bad, but one produces, for the most part, a transformational experience if you really practice it rigorously. And so the first domain is what we call the have, do, be model. So those of you who are in the have, do, be model, you live out of the conversation called once I have this, so spouse, money, status, career, whatever the thing is for you, once I have this, then I'll take committed action, and then out of that, I'll be happy and fulfilled and successful and tranquil and alive and vibrant. But guess what? It's never enough. Now, first of all of us live here, including myself. It's just how long do you live here and what's the price you're paying to live in this quadrant? And so the challenge that people have when they live here is that it's never enough and we're never satisfied. So when I have the have, well, I have the bank account needs to be bigger. Oh, I got to do an upgrade at the house because I had one child. Well, what do you mean? You doubled the size of your house. Well, that spouse, oh, we got some issues there. So you get what I'm saying? It's just never enough. It's never enough. So we become at times victims of the job, of society, of people outside of us. And so that's what we call the have, do, be model or domain. And then the second one, and this is where most people live out of, is what we call the do, have, be model. And that's about 80% of people where it's just do, 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 do. Put your head down and work. 60 hours, 70 hours, Silicon Valley, do, 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 do. Then I'm going to have this result. The status, the house, the money, whatever it is, whatever your have is. And then finally, utopia. I made it. I'm successful. I can slow down. I can now be loving. But guess what happens? We become addicted to what? The doing. We'll go back and forth, do have. We know what it causes. The data is loud on mental health. This is where people suffer from mental health, is in this quadrant. I lived there for 20 years in corporate America. I was taught, first in, last out, put your head down. So what if you're about to have a nervous breakdown at the age of 24 because I was forgetting where I parked my car in the garage? My sister said, that's not normal. Well, it's normal to me. You got to keep working and working and working. So again, none of these inherently are bad. It's just a choice of where you're choosing to spend your time in your life. Now, sometimes there's many instances where it is what it is, right? But just know that you always have a choice. This is the one I practice living out of every day. It's called Be, Do, Have. This model came out 35 years ago from several existentialists, and this is the one I coach people at. When people come to me to get coached, they want a result. I don't coach the result. I coach the way of being. And so in this model, people don't come and say, what do I need to have to do to be, or what do I need to do to have to be? They ask themselves a very different question. Leaders that live out of this conversation, here's the question they ask themselves. Who would I need to be to produce that type of a result, and what actions would need to flow out of who I'm being to produce this outcome? They ask themselves, not what do I need to have, or what do I need to do? They ask themselves, who do I need to be? Confident, loving, courageous. Who do I need to be first? I have a woman came to me, I coach athletes, and her daughter's really, really good. She's an 8th grader in West Palm, and they've got the scoreboard and these KPIs and all this stuff about results, and she wants to go to Duke, and whoa. I said, Marissa, I'm allowed to use her name. I said, who do you need to be to go to Duke? I need to be disciplined. I need to listen to my mom, imagine that. I need to wake up and stay off PlayStation 4 and 5, right? So I need to have an open mindset. I need to have my emotions really in check and understand what my emotions are, et cetera, et cetera. So it came back to who do you need to be, and then actions always fall out of who we're being. They fall out. You don't have to constantly go, these are my actions. When you're very clear on who you're being, the actions fall out, and then you have the result. So when people come to me for coaching, they go, well, here's what I have. I go, okay, I know what you have. What mindset are you in? Well, I don't know. But what if you did know? Because if you can control and manage and grow your mindset, the actions falls out of that, and then you're going to produce a result. And if you don't produce a result you're committed to, what do you go back to? What do you go back to? You go back to the way of being. What was missing, Naomi? Well, my confidence. Okay, and what else? Being open-minded. And what else? And that's where the questions begin for human beings. It's not in the have or the doing. It's in who are you being. Which leads us to our conversation today about mindsets. Who's heard of the Max Planck Institute? Show of hands. Yeah, they do some great work, right? All over the world, the social sciences and many other fields. They gave several hundred people, and you could read about this in a study, a task to go in this forest and walk on a straight line, but they put GPS on them. And guess what? Do you think they went in a straight line? No, they did what the animals are doing. True story. Yeah. And I use the analogy that if you're not clear on your mindset, you're going to be just like this, walking in a circle, thinking you're walking in a straight line. And as my mentor always tells me, she goes, Ralph, when you understand what growth looks like, you increase your capacity to grow. When you understand what growth looks like, you increase your capacity to grow. Not a table question, but this is a general question, just a show of hands, so I know how to move and navigate. How many of you have never heard of mindsets? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you for being honest. Very little? Okay, a fair amount. There we go. More than average? You're experts. And if you are, I need you up here, because you can assist me. Okay, great, thank you. So this model is by a gentleman who became a good friend of mine years ago. He's a professor at Cal State Fullerton. His name is Dr. Ryan Gottfredson. He wrote a book called Success Mindsets, and we'll be sharing that a little later. and he worked for a big organization and got let go. Got let go, he was very pissed off, but the good thing was he had a job back at the university. But he began to ask himself questions about why he lost his job, and to make a long story short, he realized that he was in a fixed mindset. He had a very closed mindset, and that's why they fired him. And he began this journey of rediscovering who he was. And he eventually wrote a book, became a bestseller called Success Mindsets. And this is the model I'm going over with you today. And so, some of you may have heard of a woman named Carol Dweck. Anybody here? Carol Dweck, psychologist out of Stanford. Yeah, in 1995, she wrote a book called Mindset. She was the first person writing about mindsets. If you Google mindsets from 1995 before, you wouldn't get much of anything. Now, after her, mindsets are a huge topic because she was the first one to really do a correlation of how mindsets really correlate to what we have in our lives. And I won't give her work away, but one study she did was pretty, she didn't do it, but she cited it. These kids were given an IQ test. They were in middle school, and the scientists came back and they lied to the teacher and gave the teacher the results back. And the kids that had low IQ, they said, oh, these are high IQ. High IQ, oh, these are low IQ. Then they came back when the grades came out end of the year. Guess what happened? Guess what happened? The kids that were, the ones that the teacher, that these who are high IQ really had low IQ, they outperformed the kids that really had high IQs. And this is published. This isn't Ralph just talking randomly. This is published. And this was immoral. You couldn't do that today. But people go, wait a second here. There's something about our belief systems and our minds that at times, now don't leave here saying, oh, Ralph, I'm going to hear it now. Ralph said that everything trumps IQ. No, please increase your IQ, okay? All right? Please increase your IQ. However, what influences, in many, many instances, is really our mindsets. So Ryan had a beautiful definition. He basically said, you and I wear eyeglasses every day. And depending on the eyeglasses we wear, that dictates the information we take in. And then that information, unconsciously or consciously, is what fuels how you think, how you act, how you love, how you listen, and how you behave, or how you communicate. And I can go on and on and on. So today, for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to briefly go over his model. His model is very different from Carol Dweck. She studied growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Ryan came along and said, I think there's more to this. I think her model is incomplete. I want to add to the model. So he came up with 3 additional pairs that are independent of growth and fixed, which I thought were very, very fascinating. We'll talk to you about the mindsets. We're going to reveal the quality of your mindsets. So I have an assessment that I will be giving out, and you can take the assessment for free, and you'll get the report back, about 20, 25 pages, and it's going to rate where you fall in each of these pairs of mindsets. It's going to give you a score from 1 to 7, give you some information on how to grow the mindsets, what they mean, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to find me, I'm available. No charge to talk to you about what this means, but I think the report's very, very detailed, and I think all of you in this room could benefit from it. And then we'll end with what are some practical ways, if you choose, to grow your own mindsets. So mindsets, this is a little smaller. Mindsets have 3 main jobs. The biggest job of our mindsets is to really take in information. Our senses send to our brain 11 million bits of information a second. Some scientists now say it's a lot more than that. So we're just saying 11 million today, but we only process about 50 bits of information. So what does that mean? That means be careful where you let your mind wander to. Be careful what you expose your brain and your mind to, because it takes in information unconsciously. You're not managing it, but if you put yourself in an environment where your brain is just seeing negativity or whatever it may, toxicity, whatever it may be, it's just taking in that information and trying to make meaning of it. The second thing the mindset does is that it makes meaning of that information. It starts to interpret that information. You expose yourself to something bad all the time, and guess what your mind begins to make up? That must be a good thing. It's not happening consciously. It's happening unconsciously. And then it begins to show up in a behavior. That's why when I was growing up, I didn't know. My mom's like, stop hanging out with bullies. What are you talking about, Mom? I have free will. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No. Next thing you know, now I was only 100 pounds. I'm not 100 pounds now. I was very, very skinny. Next thing you know, I become a senior, and I'm trying to bully people. Because my mind began to pick up that was, hey, that's what you do. That must be an okay thing. And that happens every day in life, which is why this whole argument on the internet now, it's a little too late, though. We're about a decade and a half late on that one, right? Why? Not talking neuroscientists, but neurons that fire together stay together, right? Once the signal is strong, why do you think habits are hard to break? You're not in control of it. The stronger the signal, it happens unconsciously. Alcoholics, stay away from the bar. Go by the bar, immediately it kicks in. And every habit you have, the more you do it, the stronger the signal. But you also can have, and many people have, these great, awesome habits. It happens naturally. Nothing happens naturally. It looks like it happens naturally, but it doesn't. And the last thing, just as important, is from the filtering, making meaning, it activates how you and I show up from our personality styles, how we regulate our emotions, how we go about with our skill sets. So those are three main jobs of mindsets. The question I have today for all of you, what lenses are you currently wearing? Do you know what lenses are you currently wearing? Well, you know if you didn't get licensed and you failed, right? You know that. You know when you got your undergrad or your master's. When I ask people, well, what's your mindset? I think I'm a good person. No, that's not the question. So hopefully today, we can begin the journey together, and by you taking this mindset assessment, for you really find out, where do I stand with my mindsets, and which mindsets am I exceeding at, and which mindsets get in the way of me being even a more better version of myself. This is TV to me. Think about all the networks. We supposedly see the same thing. Well, it depends on your mindset, right? Same pieces of information, and groups of people, individuals have different interpretations. See the prisoners? They're supposed to paint something very simple, but because of their mindset, they're interpreting that information they see very differently. So I said before, Carol came along and said growth and fixed mindset. That's the more popular one. Ryan came along years later, about 8 years ago, and said, I think the model's incomplete, and I can prove it scientifically. And in his book, it's one of the most well-written books I've read around mindsets and really the science behind it, right? He just has a lot of great science behind these pairs of mindsets. So you're on a continuum. So everybody in this room is on a continuum. One of your jobs, if you're open to it, is to figure out where you are on the continuum. One part of your life, in relationships or at work as an architect, you may be big growth mindset. Other parts of your life, you may be very, very fixed. But if you can find out where you are, then you have more choice. You have more agency to go, okay, I'm fine with being fixed in this. Okay, I'm fine with that, right? But you also can be well aware of, maybe there's some areas I can grow in this. So those are his 4 pairs of mindsets that I'm going to go over. And so very simple. Whatever you have in your life is a direct result of your mindset. Whatever you've produced up until now in relationships, in abundance, in spirituality, in friendships, work, whatever status you have now, it comes from a mindset. Now, you may call it another word, but it comes from this mindset you have. So this is Carol's work, growth and fixed mindset. Some of you have raised your hand that you've kind of heard about her in this definition. Pretty simple. She says it's this idea that you see yourself and other people as you're able to change your talents, ability, and intelligence. That, growth isn't static, right? That you can do whatever you want to do if you put your mind to it. And then fixed mindset says, no, I don't believe that people can change their attitudes, intelligence, and abilities. People with the fixed mindset believe that, you either have it or you don't. You either can sing or you can't. You either can, play basketball or you can't. Certain genders are better an engineer than the other, et cetera. We go on and on and on about these stereotypes, right? And people with the fixed mindset, they tend to get defensive, right? They give up easily. They don't like feedback. Oh, they hate conflict. People with a fixed mindset, they like to look good. So they'd like to portray themselves as, I'm cool, I got it together. Those are the ones you need to go, right? Because we're all imperfect to some degree. People with the fixed mindset really like to stay in their lane, their comfort zone, because they do not want to look bad. but they're not big people on growth. But the people with the growth mindset, they love the challenge, they love feedback, they welcome it, they get it's all about learning, growing, and developing. What year did we declare a man going to the moon? What year? 61. Okay. And what year did JFK get assassinated? Okay, now this isn't a test. It's okay. Some of you sitting there going, come on, it's okay. Yeah. Well, he declared a man on the moon by the end of the century. Never lived it, but that came out of a growth mindset. When was NASA created? 58? Yeah. So he made this declaration 3 or 4 years after NASA was created. We had nothing. The Russians were killing us. So what made this powerful was the power of his mindset and declaration. People with the growth mindset, they invent the future from the power of declaration. We had no evidence. And that's what I'm talking about, living out of a growth mindset. Just, gentlemen, Usain Bolt? Jamaican in the house? Okay, Naomi, we got it. Okay, so as we keep going on, I mean, how could one human being go to, 8 gold medals in 3 Olympics? Fastest man in the world. Do you know the GDP of Jamaica, folks? No, I'm not an economist, so stop. It's not as big as America. And you talk about resources. So what produces that? And look at Jamaica now. It comes out of this belief that these young kids are told at very early ages. You can achieve anything you want to achieve if you be, do, and have. And they continue to show us that model of be, do, and have. And he was one of the first of many Olympians. Who's heard of the Savannah Bananas? Oh, you're great. So they're a minor league baseball team, and they, pride themselves on being like an entertainment. Now I live in Florida. My Marlins built this beautiful stadium, and no one goes. How could this minor league baseball team have a waiting list as of today of over 2 million people? Google it, look it up. Jesse Cole is the owner of Savannah Bananas, and now they travel the world. They were in Fenway Park a few weeks ago, and all of their games are sold out. And they're not a normal baseball team. They're doing flips, and they're doing all kind of crazy stuff. But the brilliant thing, and they only started like 12, 13 years ago, is he lives out of a growth mindset. Here's what he said, and this is great for you in your profession. Here's what he said about growth mindset, but he's speaking specifically about making assumptions and experimenting anyway.
All right, the third E, experiment constantly. That was just an experiment. Everyone sells t-shirts, hats. We said, what if we sold Dolce & Banana underwear? We now sell hundreds and maybe even thousands of those, which makes no sense to me, but it was an experiment. And I learned this from Alan Fadden, who wrote the book Innovation on Demand, and he said, whatever's normal, do the exact opposite. I'm not gonna sell my book like everyone else. So he bought an entire retail store in Minneapolis, and he created a bookstore for just one book, his own. And he had his book in different sections like business and self-help and history. And he had a sign that said shoplifting's encouraged. He wanted people to have his book. People magazine, full-page story, national news everywhere. He sold a ton of books. He thought whatever's normal, do the exact opposite. The reality is normal gets normal results. If we are doing the same normal things, we're in trouble. And so I've taken this to heart. I said, we can't just have a normal marketing plan. Attention beats marketing 1,000% of the time. Attention. So how do we create attention? We have an attention plan with our team. And to think, what are those things we're doing that no one else is doing? Zach and Yvonne, who helped lead our OTT meeting, every week we talk about how can we do 10 to 15 things that have never happened before on a baseball field every night as an experiment. And I'll tell you, 9 to 13 of those fail miserably. The horse head race, messy baby, living piñata. I thought putting someone in a costume and kids hitting with bats and throwing candy, that was an HR disaster. But it was an experiment, and that's how the more you do, the more you learn. So how do you take those experiments? Jeff Bezos says our success is a direct function of how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week, per day. And that's where it starts. For us, our first experiment was like, we're gonna have our players dance. And talk about getting buy-in. A lot of you guys, you might have to go back to your firm and get buy-in on doing some things a little different. I had to get players to dance in a game, and no one wanted to do it. They were good ball players, but they were terrible dancers. So I finally got them to learn how to dance. And the first game, they did the jump on and dance, and the fans cheered. By the second game, they were the most popular players. They were signing the most autographs. By the third game, I'm walking through the crowd, and I'll never forget, a husband and wife are talking, and the wife goes, "Shut up, honey. They're about to dance." It's like, we're on to something. That led to the Banana Nanas. That led to our breakdancing coach. That led to our twerking umpire. That led to the New York Times doing a full-page story about dance in the Bananas. Not about the team, but about our dance culture. Dance has become a huge part of us because of one experiment. What's the one experiment that you could try with your team to advance the experience for your customers, to create a better experience? Can you get together and have an idea palooza like we do with our teams, or have an OTT meeting and over-the-top ideas? It sounds crazy, but if you want to disrupt your business, disrupt your industry, then you have to think differently. And that's where we start experimenting. Right now, all we focus on is Banana Ball and the greatest show in sports. We used to do events. We had haunted stadiums, running of bananas. We even had a great event I thought was Tap in the Morning Beer Festival. A beer festival that starts at 9 a.m. because you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. Only 94 people showed up. They had the time of their life, but that's all that showed up. From that experiment, we no longer do events. Like this amazing event, it's amazing. We don't do it. We just focus on where we can be the greatest show in sports. That experiment taught us an important lesson. The more you do, the more you learn. And sometimes you have to get through the messy to get to the great. And we've got through so much messy since we started, from all-you-can-eat failures to taking a show on the road, all of that. But it's worth it for your fans because it shows that you're going to keep doing new things to keep them excited about what they're doing.
It's Jesse Cole. You look them up, and that was about 3 or 4 years ago, and now they've exploded. Now they're traveling all around the world, sold out. They were in West Palm, I want to say, a few months ago. You got to get to the messy to get to the great. So that's an example of a organization living the growth mindset. Oh, who's that woman there? Oh, it's Rhonda. Oh, I met her a year ago. So yes, people with the open mindset, which we're using Rhonda today because she's a very open mindset. She wouldn't be in the position that she's in. They're open to the ideas of others, and they give those ideas time and consideration. People with the closed mindset, they're not open to the ideas. The big distinction here is people with the open mindset, they're open to the ideas and they give the ideas time and consideration. The data tells us that you and me overestimate how open we are by over 30%. We're what we call selectively open. If you're a Gator, I'm more open to hear your ideas about life. If we were in a fraternity together, or same country together, or we're related together, we have a bias. For many of us, it's not unconscious, it's very explicit, right? We have our in-groups. Even in your world, oftentimes you may be talking to someone, but they're in a different profession. You may not be as open, just in general, sharing with them. It's all happening unconscious, right? And so that's something that you have to really be careful about. I know when I took the assessment, I thought I was really open. What are you talking about? I come from a great family, 3. So I took the test again. The test is wrong. He goes, that's why you're closed, Ralph. See, if you're open, you're not taking the test again. You're asking yourself, what am I missing? What am I missing? Right? So people with the open mindset, they ask 40% more questions in conversations. So begin to think while you're at this conference. Now, I'm not talking about my sister, PhD, Yale, so she tends to, early on, she used to ask questions as weapons. That's not what I'm talking about. I used to call her an intellectual bully. So I said, stop it, psychologist. I'm talking about being curious, asking curious questions, right? And so people with the open mindset, they seek to understand. Some of you probably read the book by Stephen Covey 32 years ago, The 7 Habits. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. So they kind of live in that quadrant. Or people with the closed mindset, they're always giving advice. They're always so quick to speak. People with the closed mindset, they're not really good listeners. They listen from a totally different place. They don't like perspectives. They tend to get locked on their positions about various things. And so when I'm coaching people, about how to have a better open mind, I ask them to ask themselves 3 questions before you get into any type of conflict or you're in some type of upset with someone. Ask yourself these 3 questions. It saved me so much in my relationships. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said by me right now? It's simple. If you can answer yes to all 3, then go ahead and communicate. If you can't answer yes, please be quiet. I have this on my bathroom wall to remind myself. Because as much as I'm a coach and a consultant, I'm a student. That's why I'm here. When I present, I'm still learning and getting better and growing and having these ideas get hardwired so that I can live a better life than I'm living. So ask yourself those 3 questions. People with open-minded, they're very intuitive like that. They're asking those questions. 5 levels of listening. People that are open-minded live in level 4 and 5. With respect to time, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this slide, but you and I listen from 5 levels every minute of the day. You're doing it right now. Level 1, you're just ignoring, you're checked out. I know some of you are. That's okay. Thank you for being here. Ralph is speaking and you're just gone. That's fine. I got it. All good. I have space and grace. Level 2, Ralph is speaking. He talks about lunch, and you're wired. Oh boy, what are we eating today? Ooh, and they're golfing tomorrow. Ralph mentioned golf, and you're gone. You stop listening to Ralph, and you don't even know it. Level 3, 80% of people live here. Ralph is talking, and you think you know what he's going to say, and you're just ready to respond. That's called TV. They don't answer questions, you know that, right? TV. They're like, they've got the response going, and they're ready. Well, if you predict it right, then you're fine. But what happens when your prediction's wrong? And when you're looking at the person and your mind is always racing, and you can tell people that you're talking to, they're not listening to you. What they're doing, they're processing because they don't want to forget the recording on whatever you're talking about. Happens often. Number 4 is powerful. You're listening, but you're listening, what's it like to be in Rhonda's world? No, I'm sorry. You're listening from your world. So if I'm coming to you, sharing something, being vulnerable with you, having an emotional conversation with you, you're listening to it from your worldview, your lived experience. That works if you and I have a similar worldview and a similar lived experience. Where it doesn't work if our lived experiences are very different. And that happens more than you think. And then the 5th is empathetic listening. Very hard to live in this quadrant. Matter of fact, it's impossible to live here all the time. It's just impossible. It takes rigor, because what you're doing is you're suspending your judgments, your opinions, your evaluations of the other person, and you're just listening to go, what is going on with this person? Suspend your judgments and ready to respond, and you're just holding space for that person just to share. Very powerful place to listen. And if you think you're at level 5, you're not. Because when you're at level 5, you've forgotten who you are in that moment. You ever been with a friend where you go, oh my God, Rhonda, it's been 3 hours, oh my God. Well, yeah. Or you're doing something with a friend, or you're engulfed in a book with whatever, you're having deep conversation, and you just forget. That's when you're at level 5. And it just takes a lot of practice, because at any given moment in time, you and I are like this. This whole conference, you'll be going 1 to 5, 1 to 5. The question I have for you is, what's it going to take to be a better listener? You have to figure that out for yourself. What does it take to be a better listener? Meditation works, exercise, walking, being around better listeners makes you a better listener. And there's many methods for you to become a better listener. This woman's very open-minded. Miss Hillary, she was a nurse and retired, became a publisher, Barbara Hillary. And she decided to do a crazy thing at the age of 65, climb to the North Pole. So she got her a coach and was open-minded about this, and she climbed it, the oldest African-American woman to do so. And then she was really crazy at age 79. She goes, I want to go to the South Pole. So she did that too, all with a mindset, and retired. Anybody know who she is? There you go. I've been using this slide for 5 years, and for 3 years, people are like, on the assessment, I didn't like his slide. Who was that girl? I'm like, you'll know her name. I used the slide when she beat Venus back in 2015. I think she was like 15 years old, and now she's ranked number 2 in the world. And she grew up in Delray, not too far from here. And she prides herself on staying open, staying open. Anybody know who this guy is? Simon Sinek, yeah. He has really influenced me about creating my why. That's Simon. And he's written some really great books, and he's all over the internet, but he really lives out of this open mindset. He's always reevaluating his thinking. With respect to time, we're not gonna do that, but at the end, if you have some questions, I'll be around. You can come find me. I'd love to answer any questions that you have. We wanna keep this flowing. The third set is prevention and promotion mindset. This was new for me. Promotion mindset is this idea that you're playing to win. It's like you're the driver of your own ship versus prevention mindset. Prevention mindset, think more risk averse. Stay in your comfort zone, right? Don't rattle too much. You kind of get to a certain place where you're comfortable. That's prevention mindset. Certain professions are good here. I don't want to be in Silicon Valley and have do a startup with someone that's all promotion mindset. That's how they fail. So you need that balance as well. But I'm talking about, from a way of being, that prevention mindset is not always a good thing. Because people with the prevention mindset, they're not really coachable. They're kind of happy where they are. They love the status quo. They'll avoid risk at all costs. But promotion mindset, all those folks they're all over the world. They're in Miami, everywhere. They're in this room that they're playing to win. They'll do whatever it takes. Risk reward. They're smart. They know about the be, do, have model. Not much is going to stop them. It may take a while, but they're not going to stop. We know Sarah, right? She lives on the West Coast. She couldn't get funding. People didn't believe in her vision, but she did. And now she's, somewhere in Clearwater, St. Pete, drinking a pina colada, as you and I are sitting here trying to figure the world of architecture out. But yes, promotion mindset. Jack Ma, heard of him? Started Alibaba. In America, we have the SAT and the ACT. You take it, now you take about a dozen times, get the best score, helps you get into college. Well, in China, you take the test once in the summer, and you have to get a certain score, and if you don't, you have to wait another year, right? And it's kind of harsh on the families, because it's a really, really big deal. He failed it a few times. His third attempt, he passed it, then he wanted to go to grad school. He applies to this college in America called Harvard. I guess I heard of that. He applies 10 times, gets rejected 10 times. Okay, let me go back to China and try to be a KFC manager. True story, look it up. And they accept like 23 managers, and he's 24th. So he doesn't even get the job at KFC. He finally gets into grad school in China and starts a few companies. Long story short, then he goes and back to America, heard about this company called Amazon, wanted to take that concept back to China. At the time, China didn't really have too many people on the internet. He couldn't get funding from the government, venture capitalists, no one gave him funding. He went back to a group of friends, 19 friends, and he declared Alibaba, and they loaned him $50,000, and the rest is history. He couldn't be stopped, right? Promotion mindset. Now, since then, a lot of interesting things have happened in China with Jack Ma. However, I'm talking about this promotion mindset he had to create one of the biggest companies. At one time, it was worth over $1 trillion. I have to represent Miami, so Gloria Estefan, yes, definitely promotion mindset. She's a trendsetter as far as, a woman, a Hispanic woman being out there and not hearing a no, always finding a better way. And she's also, I love about her that she's successful for launching a lot of entertainers. They stand on her shoulders. Kiko Fukuda, interesting woman. She's the only woman, she died several years ago, to reach the 10th degree, Dan. And in judo, you get a red belt, the only woman. She became a 10th degree at the age of 98. She's been practicing most of her life. And in one period, there was a period of 12 years where she didn't move up in rank. She stayed at it. She stayed at it. And that's called a promotion mindset. You heard of Waze, right? Where was Waze originally created, please? Anybody know? Which country? Was it America? Yes, absolutely. Israel, with only a small group of people. I won't tell you the story. We do not have time for the story. But I will tell you one thing. You either disrupt an industry or you get disrupted. And you heard of Mother Google, Alphabet? Well, guess what they were doing in this this slide here. They were about to get disrupted. Because you can't really see the users, but as you can see, 50 million users in 5 years, and this is going back about a decade ago, and Google purchased them for $1 billion. Promotion mindset. Duke basketball. Anybody seen this video before? So she was speaking to her young ladies. This is Kara Lawson, head coach of the Duke women's basketball team. And one of the young ladies recorded her. And she talks about this idea called handle hard better. And this is what she tells her young girls.
I was talking with Shay a couple days ago, and one of the things we talked about was how we all wait in life for things to get easier. Think in your own life, if you waited for something to get easier. Oh, I just got to get through this and then it'll be easy. I just got to get through preseason and then it'll be okay. I've just got to get through my junior year of high school and then the classes are going to get easier. Or I've just got to get to my spring of my senior year of college and it's going to be easier. It's what we do. We wait for stuff to get easier. It will never get easier. What happens is you handle hard better. That's what happens. Most people think that it's going to get easier. Life is going to get easier. Basketball is going to get easier. School's going to get easier. It never gets easier. What happens is you become someone that handles hard stuff better. So that's a mental shift that has to occur in each of your brains. It has to. Because if you go around waiting for stuff to get easier in life, it's never going to happen. And then what happens? Oh, it's so hard. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I don't know when is it going to be easy for me? Oh, it's easy for other people. It's not. It's hard. And the second we see you handling stuff, handling hard better, what are we going to do? We're going to make it harder. We're going to make it harder. Because we're preparing for you for when you leave here. Not just basketball and life. And if you think life, when you leave college, is going to be all of a sudden get easy because you graduated and you got a Duke degree, it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. So make yourself a person that handles hard well. Not someone that's waiting for the easy. Because if you have a meaningful pursuit in life, it will never be easy. If you're trying to win a championship, if you're trying to have a family, ask your parents, do you think it was ever easy for them to raise kids? Karen, is it easy? It's not. Any meaningful pursuit in life, if you want to be successful at it, it goes to the people that handle hard well. Those are the people that get the stuff they want. People that wait around for easy, you probably see them at the bus stop. They're waiting for the easy bus to come around. Easy bus never comes around. You've got to handle hard. Okay, so don't get discouraged through this time if it's hard. Don't get discouraged. It's supposed to be. And don't wait for it to be, I just got to get through the summer. And then it'll all of a sudden get easy in the fall. No, it won't. It won't. It won't get easy in the fall. So make yourself someone that handles hard well. And then whatever comes at you, you're going to be great. You're going to be great, okay?
Don't you love that? Handle hard better. Handle hard better. As we wrap up, this is the last set of mindsets, the outward mindsets, this idea that we treat people as people, we treat people with dignity. I have Nelson Mandela here. The inward mindset is when we treat people as objects. People with the outward mindset are about leveling up people, about launching people, about growing people. It's not about them. They already have all the awards. It's about who are you launching next, Rhonda? Who are you growing in this profession? That outward mindset. They're not about themselves anymore. People with the inward mindset are always about me, me, me. They speak first person all the time. You ever been in a room with the inward mindset? They're just all about them, right? All about them. August Landmasser was married to a Jewish woman in 1936. Of course, it was illegal to be married to a Jewish woman, a German. And he said, you know what? They are people. The Jews are human beings. They're not less than. So I'm not going to salute. And he was later arrested, and he died. But he had an outward mindset. Tony Hsieh, women, you ever heard of Zappos? Yeah, he sold that company. Another company sold to Google. And he talked about if you get the culture right, everything else starts to take care of itself. What he really meant, if you get your mindset right, everything takes care of itself. Nelson Mandela, we all know the story, over 25 plus years in prison, living the outward mindset. Oh, Naomi, who's she? Outward mindset. Oh my goodness. Met Naomi in 2022, did some volunteer work. Then I met her in FIFA last year, 2023 in February. And then she invited me down to Miami where I was able to meet Madam President. And she lives the outward mindset because without Naomi, I'm not here. I'm not that possibility. But she was the one that reached out, made it happen. And so, Naomi, I want to thank you for living the outward mindset. And she's newly licensed. Give her a hand. Woo! So, in closing, you will get an assessment to take, and you'll get scores like this, rate you from 1 to 7. You'll get a report, it's going to tell you how to grow, what to do to grow, recommend books and recommend videos, et cetera, all about like how do you grow, You know that you're on an S-curve, right? You want to be in that sweet spot, putting the hours in, putting the work in that you're doing. You're all on an S-curve, so stay on that S-curve because that's where really the juice lies. And then lastly, people ask me, how do I develop my mindsets? Read, get a coach, journal, meditate, exercise, get an accountability buddy. Do something about it. Don't just stand around. And then I'll end with this. And you're also going to get the slide deck. There's some additional slides that you'll get. There's another great video to watch. But things really happen when you get an accountability buddy. When you get someone that's going to stand for you being big in your world. If you're just declaring a goal, you want to have someone attached to that goal with you. And so say what I'll do by when as you see the different percentages. So again, I want to thank you for having me here. Thank you, wonderful, wonderful A1A. And Rhonda, thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. You have definitely left us all something to think about for sure. I wanted to run up here before they turn the mic off to tell you thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed the session this morning, the kickoff. There's so much more robust programming and speakers to come. So enjoy the break, enjoy your lunch, and enjoy the rest of the convention. And don't forget that the president's reception, there's refreshment and 2 drink tickets. So we'll see you then. Thank you.